Hello and welcome to NHL Historic Rebuild with the 1997-98 Vancouver Canucks. Our journey will start at the 1997 NHL Draft. In the first round, instead of drafting who the Vancouver Canucks originally drafted, we will be selecting Marian Hossa. Marian Hossa is an all-star player that will change the fortunes of our franchise. By drafting Marian Hossa, this also allows us to trade Pavel Bure as he was disgruntled in Vancouver at this point. Next, we will draft Maxim Afinogenov. Maxim Afinogenov had some good years in the NHL. While he didn't manage to turn into a legend player, he had a good stint and turned into a solid NHL player, most noticeably with the Buffalo Sabres. Last but not least, we picked Brian Campbell. Brian Campbell would be a puck-moving defenseman that the Vancouver Canucks really needed at this point. He would also really help the defensive core at this point. They were really in need of the puck-moving defenseman in their top four. The first trade that the Vancouver Canucks would make this year would be to trade their superstar, Pavel Bure. Now, the reason why you want to trade Pavel Bure is because they need more depth and they need to rebuild the roster, as they have so many over-the-hill players on the team. Pavel Bure was without a doubt a superstar during his time with Vancouver. But if you think of what you can get with a player like Pavel Bure, you could definitely haul in a lot for a player of his caliber. So you trade Pavel Bure, Adrian Aucoin, Gino Odjick, to the Ottawa Senators in exchange for Wade Redden, Vinny Prospal, Radek, Bonk, and a first-round pick in 1998, which would be used to select Scott Gomez. Bure is the first player traded because he would fetch the most in return. Wade Redden would be the top pair on defense for the Canucks. Vinny Prospal is a really solid top six winger. Radek Bonk is a good two-way center. This trade would automatically fill many holes on this team, and the first-round pick coming in, Scott Gomez, would potentially give them a number one center, something they have not had in their history. Number two, the second trade after trading away Pavel Bure is to get rid of the over-the-hill players. The most noticeable one on this roster is Mark Messier, who was 37 at this time. You trade Mark Messier to the Edmonton Oilers for McAmmond and a second-round pick in 1999. This pick would be used to select Henrik Zetterberg. Mark Messier just did not work out for the Canucks, so they just needed to move him. McAmmond is a player that would bring speed and would be a solid role player, but let's not kid ourselves. We're just in it for the second round pick in 1999. Number three, you would trade Alex Mogilny, Sean Burke, and Scott Walker to the New Jersey Devils for Brendan Morrison, Mike Dunham, Brian Rolston, and a second round pick in 1998, which would be used to select Brad Richards. After trading away Bure and Messier, it is apparent that the Canucks right now, or at least the Canucks in this rebuild, are in a full fire sale mode. So that means that they are going to trade Mogilny. Mogilny will obviously want to play for a contending team, and the Devils fit that bill. The cost of acquiring Mogilny, though, is going to be pretty steep. The Canucks would get a goalie in Dunham that was buried behind Martin Bure. Now he would get a shot to become a number one goalie in the league. The Canucks would also get Brian Rolston and Brendan Morrison, two very talented forwards. And Brad Richards is not a bad pick as well. Number 4. Now that you acquired Mike Dunham, you have 5 goalies. So you need to trade at least two goalies away. So the first goalie you trade away is Kirk McLean. You trade Kirk McLean to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Jason Smith and a third-round pick in 1998. This would be used to select Francois Beauchimen. Kirk McLean was the longest tenured goalie on the team at this point, but he hadn't been good for a long time. He was actually pretty terrible in this season prior to this rebuild. So Kirk McLean is definitely one to be trading. Jason Smith would give the Canucks a solid top 4 or bottom pair defenseman, while Francois Beauchimen would be able to contribute to the defense in the future. Now that we have a lot of players that we need to get rid of, with the young talent coming in, we need to kind of clean house. So you just get rid of some dead weight on the roster. So you get rid of Gar Snow, Steve Stamkos, and Dave Babchuk to the New York Islanders for a third-round pick in 1999 and a sixth-round pick in 1998. This trade is just to do some house cleaning, like I said before. You just get rid of some dead weight. Excuse me. In 1998, the NHL Draft was filled with a lot of good talent. These are the players that the Vancouver Canucks ended up selecting. The first round pick was used to select Alex Tangate. Alex Tangate would be a very good first round pick. He would be a top 6 left winger without a doubt. Scott Gomez, as I mentioned before, he was acquired in the Pavel Bure trade. Scott Gomez would be number 1 center for this team. The next pick would be Mike Fisher. Mike Fisher would be a good number 3 center for this team in the future. But until he develops, Radek Bonk would be the center for us. Brad Richards is also there. He would be a good number 2 center in the future. Francois Beauchimen and Andrei Markov are also picked in this draft. They're going to be an important part of the defensive core in the future. So after all is said and done, the Vancouver Canucks would have added via trade Wade Redden, Vinny Prospal, Radek Bonk, Dean McAmmond, Brendan Morrison, Mike Dunham, Brian Rolston, Jason Smith. They would have added via draft Marian Hossa, Maxim Afinogenov, Brian Campbell, Scott Gomez, Henrik Zetterberg, Brad Richards, Ryan Miller, Francois Beauchimen, and Andrei Markov. They would have lost Pavel Bure, Alexander Mogilny, Adrian Aucoin, Mark Messier, Gino, Odjick, Sean Burke, and Scott Walker, as well as Dave Babchuk, Scott Garsnow, and Steve Stamkos. If the Vancouver Canucks had gone forward with a full rebuild like this, they would have gotten players through the draft and some solid players through the trade. Moreover, they would have been much better right now because after Bure left, they haven't had that superstar player. Next, on NHL Historic Rebuild, I will rebuild the 1999-2000 New York Islanders.